Hello, any students. This week I would like to keep on talking about this table of English tenses that you have in your booklet. Last week we talked about present tenses. Remember, we talked about the simple present, the present progressive, the present perfect, and the present perfect progressive. So this week we're going to talk about the corresponding past tenses. That is, we will start with simple past. In terms of form, the challenge, let's say, has to do with irregular verbs. You know, regular verbs in English take ed. For example, in the past, the verb play is played. Okay, I played tennis yesterday. But what happens with irregular verbs? We are supposed to remember the past form. For example, if you look at the table, they use an example with an irregular verb. Okay, he spoke to me last week, for example, which is the infinitive form, speak. Well, that is something we have to remember. This is the famous second column in these famous columns of English verbs. Here we see that the auxiliary verb for the negative and the interrogative is did, plus, of course, the infinitive. The simple past is used for, of course, actions that took place in the past, but at a very definite point in time in the past. That is what makes it so different from the present perfect. And it is usually, it comes together with certain expressions. If it says yesterday, you know it is simple past. Here you have a list. Yesterday, 2 minutes ago, in 1990, the other day, last Friday, last week, all right, when I was younger, during the Second World War. And here you have an example of a conditional sentence. That is something we're going to see later on in the course. Now, let's have a look at the past progressive. As we said before, when dealing with the present, when you say progressive, you mean duration. You're emphasizing length, all right? It is a long action. Here we know in terms of form, you need the past form of the verb to be, either was or were, plus verb ing. In this example, he was speaking. Whenever you have the auxiliary be, you go for inversion for questions, and you insert not for negation. It is an action going on at a certain time in the past. All right? So, what were you doing yesterday at midday? Okay? At a certain point in time in the past, but an action that is going on, that has duration. Okay? I was having lunch at that time. It's very frequently combined with the simple past in this way. When you have a long action and a short action. When a long action is interrupted by a short action. Typical example, I was having a bath when the phone rang. While I was studying for the exam, my friend rang, for example. Okay, we move on now to the past perfect simple. It is not difficult. The past perfect includes had plus the past participle or third column. In this example, he had spoken. When do we use the past perfect simple? Well, I like to say that the past perfect is a more past. It is the past in the past. It means that you need, let's say, two actions. One is more past than the other. That more past action, that is when you use the past perfect. That is, so very frequently you say something like, when I arrived, my parents had already left, okay? Which means there was nobody at home. They left at 8 and I arrived at 9, okay? Or here it says then an action taking place before a certain time in the past, okay? This is my example. Here you have, all right, I use one of those. I said when I arrived, they had already left. When I got to the station, the train had just left. Okay, so I had to wait for the next. And a third type conditional, which we are not going to see in this course. You're going to deal with third type conditionals when you attend INA next term. And then the past perfect progressive, where you have had, been, verb ing, had been speaking, the insertion of not for the negation and the inversion for the question. It says here as an explanation of use, action taking place before a certain time in the past. This includes not only a more past action, but also, as we said before, duration. So we could say, when I arrived at the party, they had been celebrating for hours. Okay? So, can you see that there is length, that this is a long action? You need a special kind of verb, because certain verbs are more, they easily go together with a progressive. Verbs such as wait, okay? She said she had been waiting for 3 hours, all right? They said they had been studying all day. Well, in some cases you could say that she had waited for hours, but she had been waiting for hours is more emphatic in terms of the period of time it takes. It took her. The idea now is to practice past tenses a little bit more before moving on to, in this case, will, and some other ways we have to refer to the future in English. Of course, feel free to send any questions you may have as regards either the present tenses or past tenses. I hope this has helped you. Thank you.